Probably not public information yet, but who's the person that's number one on that invitation list?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
From the outside, Hollywood always sells itself as glamorous, polished, and untouchable, but behind the curtains, that shine fades quickly. At the heart of this latest storm is Sean Diddy Combs, a man once praised as a music mogul, now drowning in scandal. And dragged into this narrative is another global name, Leonardo DiCaprio. What shocks so many people is how closely their paths have crossed. When Joe Rogan began piecing together the connections on his podcast, the internet lit up. The big question is no longer just about Diddy's crumbling empire, it's about who else stood next to him and why no one asked questions sooner.
Leonardo DiCaprio is voting for Kamala Harris. Has nothing to do with the Diddy parties.
when you guys are talking,
nothing to do with the Diddy parties. He's endorsed Kamala Harris because of climate change.
Then did you see him? He's on a yacht and then on a private jet. Literally
So
like
smart.
last week. Do you know Diddy won a lawsuit against that alcohol company? The alcohol company,
Ciroc?
Ciroc.
Yes.
He won like $1 billion deal, and once that happened, then this all came out.
Diddy's downfall didn't come out of nowhere. For years, whispers followed him. Stories about his notorious parties floated around, painted as wild, over-the-top nights where anything could happen. The industry smiled, the media cheered, and people laughed it off as part of his larger-than-life image. But now those same stories look very different in hindsight. Behind the music, behind the brand deals, behind the stage smiles on red carpets, there's a darker reality, one that's starting to pull others down with him. Enter Leonardo DiCaprio. For decades, Leo has been the face of Hollywood success. From his breakout in Titanic to his award-winning roles, he became untouchable in the eyes of fans. But photos, footage, and resurfaced moments show him repeatedly orbiting Diddy's world, even as a teenager just beginning his career. These weren't small, casual run-ins. These were private gatherings, exclusive parties, the very same ones now under a microscope. And Joe Rogan didn't hold back in asking, what was Leonardo doing there? The truth is unsettling. Leonardo rose to fame young, barely out of his teens when he was already one of the biggest stars in the world. At the same time, Diddy was climbing his own ladder, using Bad Boy Records to cement his influence. On the surface, they had no reason to cross paths, but somehow they did. Again and again, photos placed them together in the 90s, at events where few outsiders were invited. And while some may say it was just Hollywood, Rogan's take was simple. Patterns like this don't happen by accident. One clip from 1995 stands out. Leonardo, still in his early 20s, was asked about his circle of friends in Hollywood. He froze, hesitated, then brushed off the question. At the time, people chalked it up to shyness, but today, in light of Diddy's collapse, that hesitation feels like something more. Rogan pointed out that Leo's demeanor changed drastically over the years. Early interviews show him bright, playful, and open. Later ones show him guarded, cautious, and distant. Was that just fame? Or was it something he saw behind those closed doors? This is where Rogan's commentary struck a nerve. He wasn't excusing Leonardo. He wasn't painting him as a hero or victim. Instead, he questioned the silence. Why didn't Leonardo ever distance himself publicly? Why didn't he ever call out what he saw? Rogan suggested Leo's silence may have been a survival tactic, a way to keep working in an industry that punishes anyone who speaks out too soon. But here's the problem. Silence also protects the people at the top. Silence let Diddy grow more powerful, even as his empire rotted from the inside. The bigger story isn't just Leo. It's about a cycle in Hollywood where young stars are pulled into the orbit of power players like Diddy. Again and again, the same structure appears. A teenager rises fast, gets access to private parties, rubs shoulders with the elite, and then something changes. They disappear for a while, or they return with a different look in their eyes. Rogan called it out directly. Diddy acted like a gatekeeper. He positioned himself as the one who could open doors, but the cost of entry was never clear. This is where Leonardo's presence becomes harder to ignore. He wasn't just a guest, he was one of the most photographed faces in the world, and his proximity to Diddy gave legitimacy to those gatherings. Every photo, every event, every handshake was another layer of credibility. And yet, when the walls began to collapse, Leonardo stayed silent. That silence now looks like complicity to many. Fans who once adored him are starting to ask hard questions. Was Leo just a bystander, or was he part of the culture that allowed Diddy to thrive unchecked? Rogan went further. He blasted not only the celebrities, but also the media, publicists, and executives who looked the other way. For decades, Diddy was invited to every event, given every opportunity, praised in every headline. Meanwhile, young stars like Leonardo kept showing up in the same circles, never questioned. Nobody in the mainstream dared connect the dots. It wasn't until federal agents raided Diddy's homes, until lawsuits piled up, until insiders broke their silence, that the truth began clawing its way out. Now, as Diddy's empire falls, the people who once stood beside him are being pulled into the spotlight, and Leonardo DiCaprio is right there. The resurfaced photos are more than nostalgia, they're evidence. They show a Hollywood culture where young talent was dangled as bait and power was worshipped no matter the cost. Rogan's point was sharp. If people like Leonardo, with all their fame and protection, never spoke up, then what chance did lesser-known stars have? For Leonardo, this isn't just about the past. His silence is now shaping how people view his present. Fans are asking whether his career, his activism, and even his personal choices can be separated from the company he kept. Rogan argued that while Leonardo survived, survival often comes with scars. And those scars, if left unacknowledged, can be just as damaging as speaking out. Meanwhile, Diddy's carefully constructed empire is in free fall. Federal raids, investigations, lawsuits, the foundation he built is crumbling in real time. And with every brick that falls, more names get dragged into the rubble. It's not just about Diddy anymore. It's about everyone who partied with him, worked with him, or looked the other way. Leonardo DiCaprio is only one name in a long list, but he's one of the biggest. And his silence is deafening. The internet has already begun connecting the dots in ways the media refuse to. Old interviews are resurfacing, photos are being re-examined, insiders are speaking louder, and Joe Rogan, with his massive platform, is refusing to let the story fade. His conclusion was clear. You don't need a confession to see the truth. The signs are already there. Diddy's empire is cracked beyond repair. And the people who stood by his side are finally facing the same questions he avoided for decades. As the scandal grows, Leonardo's name won't be left behind. His legacy, once untouchable, now carries a shadow. And for Joe Rogan, that's the real point. Hollywood is built on secrecy, but secrets don't last forever. The truth, no matter how buried, always rises. As the scandal deepens, the focus isn't only on the past, it's on the ripple effect in Hollywood right now. Industry insiders are whispering that Leonardo DiCaprio's reputation, once seen as ironclad, is no longer untouchable. Younger actors who once idolized him are beginning to distance themselves, not openly but through subtle choices. Projects that would have proudly marketed Leonardo as a figurehead are quietly shifting their strategies, focusing instead on ensemble casts or highlighting other names. It's not because Leo has been directly accused, but because his silence is being read as a choice, and that choice has consequences. This is where Joe Rogan's words cut the deepest. He reminded his audience that silence in Hollywood isn't neutral, it's powerful. When someone with Leonardo's influence stays quiet, it protects the very culture that allowed figures like Diddy to thrive unchecked. And while Leonardo may believe he's simply surviving by avoiding comment, Rogan made it clear that survival at the expense of truth only helps the guilty. The public, he argued, should demand more from people with such massive platforms. What makes this situation even more explosive is the timing. Hollywood is already under scrutiny for its elitist culture, its secretive cliques, and its failure to hold power players accountable. Diddy's collapse is just one thread in a much larger unraveling. And as that fabric tears, more names are being exposed, more footage is being revisited, and more questions are being asked. The Leonardo connection isn't just a footnote, it's part of a larger pattern showing how young stars were pulled into dangerous circles, whether they wanted to be there or not. The public is waking up. Online forums, social media threads, and commentary channels are dissecting every piece of footage, every interview, every photo. Fans who once turned a blind eye are now demanding answers. And Leonardo's silence, once a survival tactic, is becoming a liability. As Joe Rogan said, you don't need confessions to see the truth. The evidence is all around, and the more people look, the harder it becomes for Hollywood elites to hide.